Good morning, App Properties. It's Amy Corr and Kevin Van Eck, and we're here with coffee, and we're ready for you. It's day 3, and we're here to talk about productivity and exactly what you can do and be doing to make sure that you're still creating success for yourself and success for your clients. So, Amy, you want to talk a little bit about what we're going to talk about today?
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. So we want to talk a little bit about when we're quarantined, how can we continue to create success for our clients after a contract is written? Today, specifically, we're going to talk about client communication, working on, how you can do this remotely and virtually through different meeting options, Zoom, whereby.com, a couple of the other things that you can actually use and have access to. We're also going to talk a bit about listings, specifically working with your sellers to make sure that you are continuing the success for them, both through the time that they get a contract and even afterwards. Same thing with buyers. Really just trying to step you through some great ideas on how to be able to manage working with buyers during this kind of interesting time. And then really focusing on transactions and setting expectations moving forward. And what we mean by that is, it's one thing to, be doing showings and working with buyers and sellers to the point of getting a home under contract, but we also want to step you through how to successfully get it from under contract to closing in this environment. There are some things that are happening, things that are changing that you need to be thinking about. So really wanting to help you be a step ahead and be a value to your clients.
Yeah, so the first point, we've talked a lot about communication, and so we want to continue to stress that. And when people have anxiety, the best way to communicate is over the phone or potentially face-to-face. So there are tools you can do this with. And so I know we're used to texting, we're used to emailing information. I think during this time, again, let's remember it's a critical conversation. Let's do it over the phone or even better, like we said, FaceTime. So there are some tools you can use for meetings and presentations. One that we're using now is Zoom. And Zoom is really great because it has a lot of functionality, it's fairly easy to use, and there's a free option where you don't need to pay. But we did find another option called whereby.com, that's WHEREBY.com, and that is such an easy tool. There's no codes, no pins to put in. Truly someone who's using an iPad or a computer for the first time, they click a link and you're meeting with them. So it's quite simple. So consider those options to be able to have a face-to-face conversation. The second thing is in terms of signatures. So we have over 1,500 people at App Properties on Docusign. So if you're not one of them, I think now might be a time to do that, to make sure you don't need to meet in person and share pens and do things on paper. It's more efficient in general at any time, but certainly during this point, it's going to make things more efficient with less exposure. And then we've talked a little bit about, what happens when someone, oh my goodness.
I'm sorry, am I distracting you?
No, I had a total meltdown. All right. Total meltdown.
Okay. It's okay.
Mentally. And
that's
I can't
awesome.
top
I'm
it.
so glad because that's okay. We'll just do it again. I'm just so glad because I feel like you're always so good at this shit, and I'm always like really feeling like I'm 1 second away from fucking up.
I have to remember to top this. Okay.
Okay, I'm always like, keep it together, Amy, because you can't start over. Keep it together.
Oh, man. I started thinking about like 10 other things. All right.
Okay.
Here we go.
Cut to you, Amy. Just say that. I'll be ready. I'll be like with my eye. Okay.
Take it away.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, good morning, App Properties. It's Amy Corr and Kevin Van Eck, and we're having coffee, and we hope you are too. And we're here with another edition of how to be productive when we're quarantined and how we can continue the momentum and keep things going. So we have a really good topic for you today.
Hey guys, good morning. Thanks for joining us. Yes, we're going to talk a bit about when we're quarantined, how we can continue to create success for our clients, and especially after a contract is written. So today we want to talk a little bit about client communication. Specifically, a lot of you have been reaching out about how to do some virtual communication with your clients. It's important to pick up the phone, but also how can you be doing video conferencing, such as what we're doing this morning with you, especially if you've got, clients that may not be so tech savvy. So we'll talk through a few of those things, also just important communication tools that you can have at your fingertips or you should make sure that you can access. We also want to talk about listings and our buyers. how to make sure we are continuing to effectively work with them to get showings, to get buyers in, to take a look at properties, some of the things that we can be doing virtually in light of meeting face-to-face. So we've got some ideas there for you as well. And then the last thing we're going to really hone in on, which is really critical, are your transactions and setting expectations after you go under contract. We've focused a lot on how to, make sure that you're safely showing property, how you're safely getting your seller's house prepared for a property, which is wonderful. But we also want to talk about some critical components of after you're under contract, are you staying a step ahead to make sure that all of the vendors, everything that has to happen for a successful closing, that you're thinking through those measures during this time where there's limited contact, certain places are closed. So we've got some great ideas and thoughts for you this morning.
Yeah, I think we've talked a lot about communication, right? And we've talked about how this is a critical time because people have anxiety, they're stressed. So how can you effectively communicate? Well, phone obviously is best. We're so used to texting and emailing where now I think we really need to make a shift back to the phone if you haven't already. And beyond that, video chat, whether that's FaceTime or another tool, when we're having these critical conversations, it's really important that people can see your face and you can convey body language. And for all the reasons we already know, face-to-face is more important. And we can still do that even though we can't meet in person. So if we're talking about meetings and this communication, there are a couple tools out there. There are a lot, actually, but two that we really want to stress. We have Zoom, which is the tool that we're using right now. It's really easy. There's a free version that you can use. And it's got a lot of functionality. So depending on how tech savvy you are, it could have some tools that make it really, really helpful in this communication with your clients and others. But we found a tool called whereby.com, and that's whereby.com. And that one is so simple. Quite honestly, you send a link, someone clicks it, and they're in a meeting with you. So even if it's the first time someone's touching a computer, you should be able to meet with them. Another tool, and we're all familiar with it, is Docusign. But right now, meeting with people with a pen and paper and having them sign, it's not the best idea. Not only is it not efficient anytime, but now limiting exposure, it's really important to be able to do things efficiently and safely. So what Docusign does, it allows you to sign virtually. And so if you haven't signed up already, make sure you email ithelp@atproperties.com because we have a special rate. And if you get on our program, you'll pay that special unlimited rate. So consider that. And then something that's really important is disclosure. And when we're talking about disclosure, it's making sure that you're aware of everything that's happening with your clients, with you, and with other agents and the clients of the home that you're visiting. And what I mean by that is we don't want to put anyone at risk unnecessarily. So being candid and being open in conversation with your clients, if they're sick, do not take them to a listing. If they are not feeling well, certainly do not get in a car or meet with them in person. And if you find out after the fact that either a home you visited with buyers or your clients have been exposed, there's a couple things to do. One is verify all of the information because there are a lot of rumors out there. We've heard things flying around about people being exposed or that they have COVID-19, and then it turns out they don't, and there was no risk, and now everyone is extra stressed. So anytime you hear any of these things, verify the information before spreading it. And the big suggestion is always talk with your managing broker. Talk with your managing broker about it, and do not sweep anything under the rug. Do not assume that something isn't important, because during this time we do need to take care of each other, and we don't want to be the point of a problem.
Super important, Kevin. Thank you. So I want to talk a little bit about how to work with your listings, especially now where we're trying to limit exposure, limit being in person with individuals, but we still obviously want to make sure that buyers can see, every aspect of your seller's home. So, how can you still market and present a property effectively? Online exposure right now is really key. Showings are now online more than ever. If you don't currently have a listing video, you can even take one yourself. You can actually go through the house and film one. You can upload it to Zillow and have it ready to share for anybody who's inquiring. The other thing is make sure that in your remarks on the MLS, which get pushed out to Zillow, Realtor, to all of the public sites, that you have information saying, I've got a virtual walkthrough. Make sure it's easy for people to find that so that they know that they can have some version of being able to walk through the property virtually. I'd really encourage you to consider Real Vision. It's a great resource. We obviously have a really good partnership with them, but it makes it easy for people to view the home without having to physically be there. And if you don't have great photos right now, guys, I would really encourage you to maybe take a look at all of your active listings. Go online and just, take a look. Let's say you've got 5 listings. Go in and, be objective and look at, how do these show online? Is there anything that I can be doing to improve the look and feel of how I show to an audience virtually? And if you need to get new photos, whether you go through VHT, who's got some great packages, or you can work with Real Vision. The nice thing is Real Vision has an all-in-one option that can get you some really great bang for your buck. For just $229, they will give you unlimited photos. They'll give you a virtual tour and floor plans. Kevin and I earlier were just talking about how floor plans are critical. Again, I remember I actually bought a year ago today, and happy anniversary to me. But I remember how critical it was to be able to see the house online, both virtually and using floor plans. So start thinking about that. It's really a great time to, make sure you're using these resources. And then the last thing I'll recommend is work with the co-op agent. If you've got somebody that has a buyer that's interested in your property, be willing to get over to the house and actually take them through a live walkthrough where you can FaceTime with them and, take them through all the critical elements of the home. You may not want to do it personally, but you can still do it over the phone. And if they've got questions about the master bath or the master bedroom, you can actually take them through and have a dialogue live. I think these are some really effective ways to be able to still present your listings to potential buyers.
Yeah, that's great. And I think we're hearing more and more, right, Amy, about people doing, I think, what's called armchair showings. We got a story yesterday from a broker who was talking about how they're creating this massive exposure through using Real Vision and the tour there. So with buyers, I think the first step is we have to verify that they're actually legit. And by legit, I mean qualified. And of course, you have to treat everybody the same, right? Fair housing, et cetera. But this is not a time to be taking out tire kickers that want to go look at 87 properties. So verify with them that they are qualified, that they are interested, that they have a need, and they do want to move. And then the second step is it's a perfect time to re-qualify them in terms of their expectations, their needs, and their non-negotiables. And so we've all been there before where we're showing a property and the buyer and the buyer's agent come in and they say, oh, there's no outdoor space. It says that in the MLS. So let's make sure that we're qualifying the buyers and what they actually want before we sling them into a property that isn't going to fit from the beginning. So make sure you confirm their non-negotiables with them. Limit the number of properties you're going to go see by doing this. And then offer too, before you bring your clients through, if it is uncertain whether or not the property is a perfect fit for them, offer to go through, talk with the listing agent, offer to go through and FaceTime them or create a video, or you can ask the listing agent to do it as well. And then lastly, when you are touring a property, if you are working with buyers, and this applies to, showings, this applies to inspections, anytime you're meeting people at the property, limit the number of people there to the decision makers. It's not a time to have, both sets of parents and a bunch of kids running around. Limit it to the people that are going to be living in the property that are the decision makers, so we're not creating a ton of exposure unnecessarily.
Yep, all good stuff, Kevin. So, in talking this morning, Kevin and I were really wanting to hone in on, we've talked a lot about how to work with active buyers and sellers, but, we started talking about this critical component of what am I really doing once the property goes under contract? And I want to talk a little bit about setting expectations and thinking through the transaction to closing. The best thing that you can do as a broker is really think through these next steps. A really good example, the managing broker from Highland Park shared with me yesterday that there was a couple who was closing in Buffalo Grove. They were sitting at the closing table and they realized that the transfer stamps needed to be purchased, and there was an issue because the village of Buffalo Grove was shut down. They were able to work around the issue, but it was a stumbling block for a little bit. So, starting to think through all the things that have to happen between getting under contract to closing. A suggestion for all of you, if you've got a list of properties in the varying stages of getting to closing, I would go through each one of them and start thinking about what are the steps that still have to happen to close. So do an inventory of all of your transactions right now and make sure you're that step ahead. Make sure, who do you need to confirm with? I think it's a really important time for you to start thinking about all of your vendors that you have to interact with. For example, if you're going to be doing an inspection on a property, is the inspector, how are they operating? Are they up and running and working? Are they, what is their protocol? Are they comfortable inspecting at a time right now? If they are going to inspect a home, do we need to know how the home has to be ready and prepared for them in order for them to actually come in and do what they need to? Same thing with appraisers. I just had a story the other day where an appraiser sent a detailed, list of what needed to happen in order for them to come in and successfully do what they needed to. They wanted lights on, doors open. They wanted information already ready and present at the house. So start thinking through this ahead of time. This is part of our job. Contractors, think about if you've got some stuff that has to be done prior to closing. Are your contractors operating? Are they able to handle what they need to? I had an issue where somebody needed to get a cleaning crew in prior to an inspection happening so that the buyer would be comfortable. They had to call 3 or 4 cleaning crews until they were able to actually get somebody who would be available. So start thinking through all of these steps because, it's suddenly approaching you and it's the day of it happening. You may run into hiccups that cause delay and just might cause additional stress. So just, really important to be thinking about these things ahead of time.
Yeah, totally right. In the same line, well, going back to expectations, nobody likes surprises, right? So the more we can prepare ahead of time, the fewer surprises we'll have. And again, in a stressful situation, we certainly want to limit surprises. So in addition to what Amy's talked about with the vendors and making sure that everybody, what to expect and you can communicate that, I think staying in close contact with the attorneys and the lenders is really important too. And so in terms of the lenders, we want to make sure that, there might be some delays. We don't know. We heard some stories about, some long delays potentially in underwriting or moving to closing. So stay in close communication with the lenders so that we're clear with our clients and then also the other side, whether they're the buyers or the sellers. Stay in close communication so that everybody knows what to expect. So there are as few surprises as possible. And then in terms of the attorneys, also prepare for contingency plans if things do get delayed. We know our contracts all have timelines and there are deadlines to get things done. And there's nothing worse in a normal environment than popping, a delay or popping in an extension. But now especially when people are on edge, make sure that the communication is open, dialogue is there, and everyone is prepared. And they understand the steps as well. We talk a lot of times in our classes or specifically in RE 101 about being a control freak. This is the time to be a control freak. This is the time where if you haven't been organized, prepared, or had a great communication in the past, this is the time to learn it and do it in order to keep creating success, not only for your clients, but also for yourself, because this is the time where you're going to really be able to shine and show your clients what you can accomplish. So with that, thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Moving forward, we really want to suggest that you submit your stories, your questions, your concerns. Amy shared a lot of stories today, and those are really important. When we start to share, we understand how to learn and handle situations that come up. So if you have those, please send them to atcoaching@properties.com. That's atcoaching@properties.com. And we want to stress again that you really talk with your managing broker. If there are situations that you're not sure how to handle, bring it up with them, and they'll help you create solutions. So thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, guys. Make it a great day.